The underdog cadet. The gleaming spires of the Galactic Academy pierced the amber sky of Centaurid Prime, a testament to the collaborative achievement of 100 alien races. Among the throngs of diverse beings hurrying through its grand corridors, Lyra Chen felt painfully ordinary. Her dark hair and eyes, so common on Earth, made her stand out like a dull pebble among precious gems. As Lyra rushed to her xenobiology class, she couldn't help but marvel at her surroundings. Holographic displays flickered with information in a dozen different languages, while anti-gravity platforms ferried students effortlessly between levels. It was a far cry from the crumbling infrastructure of Earth, a planet still recovering from centuries of environmental disasters and political strife. "Watch it, Earthling," a voice hissed as Lyra accidentally bumped into a tall, slender being with iridescent skin. The Arcturian's 4 eyes narrowed in disgust, antennae twitching with annoyance. "Sorry," Lyra mumbled, ducking her head and quickening her pace. It was a familiar dance by now. Dodge, apologize, keep moving. 6 months into her first year at the academy, and she still felt like an imposter. The lecture hall was already packed when Lyra slipped in, taking her usual seat at the back. Professor Zixlana, a gelatinous Jovian with swirling patterns of bioluminescence, floated at the front of the room. Today, we will discuss the fascinating evolutionary adaptations of the Rigellian swamp dwellers. The professor's melodious voice reverberated through the room. Can anyone tell me why their epidermis changes color based on emotional states? Several appendages shot up around the room. Lyra sank lower in her seat, hoping to avoid attention. It wasn't that she didn't know the answer. She had spent hours poring over her textbooks the night before. But every time she spoke up, her voice seemed to come out wrong, too soft or too loud, never quite fitting in with the harmonic tones of her classmates. As the lecture progressed, Lyra's datapad filled with notes, her fingers flying across the holographic keyboard. If she couldn't stand out for her brilliance or natural abilities, she was determined to succeed through sheer hard work. The class ended, and students began filing out. Lyra was packing up her things when she heard a familiar voice. "Hey, Chen, managed to keep up today?" Lyra looked up to see Caxlin, a Syrian with metallic scales and a perpetual smirk. He was flanked by his usual group of friends, all top performers in their year. "I'm doing fine, thanks," Lyra replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Caxlin leaned in, his voice dropping to a mock whisper. "You know, there's a betting pool on how long you'll last before dropping out. I've got credits riding on you lasting the full year. Don't let me down, Earthling." Laughter rippled through the group as they sauntered away, leaving Lyra alone in the empty classroom. She took a deep breath, willing the burning in her eyes to subside. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. As she made her way to the training grounds for her next class, physical adaptation, Lyra couldn't help but wonder for the 100th time why she had been chosen for the academy. Humans were still newcomers to the galactic stage, their inclusion more a political gesture than a recognition of their abilities. Most of her classmates had evolved on worlds with gravities, atmospheres, and radiation levels that made them naturally suited for space exploration. How could she compete with beings who could breathe underwater, withstand extreme temperatures, or manipulate energy fields with their minds? The training grounds were a vast, shape-shifting landscape that could simulate environments from across the galaxy. Today, it was configured as a low-gravity asteroid field, complete with swirling space debris and unpredictable gravitational eddies. "All right, cadets," barked Instructor Dron, a grizzled Martian veteran with scars crisscrossing his red-tinged exoskeleton. "Today's exercise is simple. Navigate the field, retrieve the beacon at the center, and return to base. You have 1 hour. Suit up." Lyra donned her envirosuit, double-checking the seals with practiced precision. It was one area where she excelled. Growing up on a pollution-ravaged Earth had made her meticulous about life support systems. As the airlock cycled and the cadets launched into the simulated void, Lyra felt a familiar mix of terror and exhilaration. This was why she had come to the academy, why she endured the daily humiliations and struggles. The vastness of space called to her, promising adventure and discovery. Lyra pushed off from the launch platform, using her suit's maneuvering thrusters to navigate between chunks of rock and ice. All around her, her classmates were showing off their natural abilities. A Jovian cadet expanded its gaseous body to slip through narrow gaps, while a pair of Andromedons used their natural bioluminescence to communicate and coordinate their movements. Focused on the beacon's signal, Lyra almost didn't notice the asteroid until it was too late. A sudden shift in the gravitational field sent her tumbling, her trajectory putting her on a collision course with a jagged rock face. Time seemed to slow. In that moment of panic, Lyra felt something stir deep within her. A warmth spread from her core, extending to her fingertips. Without thinking, she reached out towards the asteroid. To her astonishment, the rock seemed to shudder and crack. A chunk broke off, altering its path just enough for Lyra to sail past unharmed. Breathing heavily, Lyra stabilized her position, staring at her hands in disbelief. What had just happened? Had she imagined it? Chen, stop daydreaming and get moving. Instructor Dron's voice crackled through her comm unit, snapping her back to reality. Pushing the strange incident to the back of her mind, Lyra refocused on the mission. She reached the beacon just as the Syrian twins, with their superior agility, were detaching it from its moorings. Better luck next time, Earthling, one of them chittered as they zipped past her on the return journey. Lyra gritted her teeth and pushed on. She might not be the fastest or the strongest, but she was determined to complete the course. As she neared the finish line, she found herself neck and neck with Zara, an Arcturian cadet who had always been kind to her. Zara glanced at her, all four eyes widening in surprise. "You've improved, Lyra. Race you to the end." For the first time that day, Lyra felt a genuine smile spread across her face. "You're on." They crossed the finish line together, laughing and breathless. As they removed their helmets, Zara gave Lyra a friendly pat on the back. "Nice work out there. You're tougher than you look." The praise, simple as it was, warmed Lyra more than she cared to admit. Maybe, just maybe, she was starting to find her place here. As the cadets filed out of the training grounds, Lyra hung back, her mind returning to the incident with the asteroid. She approached Instructor Dron, hesitating before speaking. "Sir, I think something strange happened out there, with one of the asteroids." Dron's compound eyes focused on her, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "Explain." Lyra recounted what she had experienced, half expecting the instructor to dismiss her story outright. To her surprise, Dron listened intently, his antennae twitching with interest. "Interesting," he said finally. "I've heard rumors, but never from a human. Report to the medical bay for a full scan." And Chen. "Yes, sir." "Keep this to yourself for now. We don't want to start any unnecessary speculation." Lyra nodded, a mixture of excitement and apprehension churning in her stomach. As she made her way to the medical bay, her mind raced with possibilities. Was this why she had been chosen for the academy? Was there more to humanity's potential than anyone had realized? For the first time since arriving at the Galactic Academy, Lyra felt a spark of hope. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever mysteries surrounded her newfound abilities, she was determined to face them head-on. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and Lyra Chen was just beginning to discover her place in it. The discovery. The medical bay of the Galactic Academy was a marvel of xenobiological engineering, designed to accommodate the diverse physiologies of 100 different species. As Lyra lay in the bioscanner, its pulsing lights washing over her, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the cusp of something momentous. Dr. Exora, the Academy's chief medical officer, studied the holographic readouts with a furrowed brow. The Altarian's tentacles waved in agitation, a sign Lyra had learned to associate with deep concentration or concern. "Well, Cadet Chen," Dr. Exora said finally, her voice a melodious trill, "your readings are unusual, to say the least." Lyra sat up, her heart pounding. Unusual how? The doctor's 7 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Lyra had come to recognize as the Altarian equivalent of a thoughtful pause. There are energy patterns in your cellular structure that I've never seen in a human before. They're faint, but unmistakably present. It's almost as if your body is trying to tap into some hidden potential. Lyra's mind raced back to the asteroid field, to the moment when she had felt that strange surge of power. Could this explain what happened during the training exercise? Possibly, Dr. Ixora replied, but I'd need more data to be certain. For now, I'm recommending you for additional testing and observation. And Lyra, the doctor's tone softened. Be careful. Not everyone will understand what's happening to you. As Lyra left the medical bay, her head spinning with questions, she nearly collided with Professor Zixlana. Ah, Cadet Chen, the Jovian professor burbled, her gelatinous form shimmering with curiosity. Just the human I was hoping to see. I have a special assignment for you. Intrigued, Lyra followed Professor Zixlana to her office, a room filled with bubbling tanks of exotic life forms and holographic star charts. The professor gestured towards a small, nondescript box on her desk. This artifact was recently discovered in the ruins of an ancient human colony on Proxima Centauri B, Zixlana explained. We believe it predates humanity's official entry into the galactic community. I'd like you to analyze it and prepare a report on its possible significance. Lyra's eyes widened. It was rare for first-year cadets to be entrusted with such tasks. Thank you, Professor. I won't let you down. As Lyra reached for the box, she felt a tingling sensation in her fingertips. The moment she touched it, the artifact came to life, emitting a soft, pulsating glow. Intricate patterns appeared on its surface, swirling and shifting like liquid starlight. Professor Zixlana's bioluminescent patterns flashed in surprise. Fascinating. It's never responded like that before. Quick, Cadet Chen, what do you feel? Lyra could barely find the words to describe the sensation. It was as if the artifact was singing to her, resonating with something deep inside her very being. Images flashed through her mind, vast starships, advanced technologies, humans wielding incredible powers. I think it's showing me something, Lyra stammered. A history, our history, but it's not like anything I've learned before. For hours, Lyra worked with the artifact under Professor Zixlana's excited supervision. They discovered that the box contained a wealth of information, historical records, scientific data, and tantalizing hints about humanity's forgotten past. It appears, Professor Zixlana mused, her form rippling with excitement, that humans once possessed abilities far beyond what we see today, some kind of genetic potential that has lain dormant for millennia. Lyra's mind whirled with the implications. But why did we lose these abilities? And why are they resurfacing now? Before the professor could respond, an alarm blared through the academy. Red lights flashed, and a computerized voice echoed through the corridors. Security breach in Section 7. All cadets return to dormitories immediately. This is not a drill. Lyra's first instinct was to follow the order, but a sudden impulse stopped her. She glanced at the artifact, still glowing softly in her hands. Without fully understanding why, she knew she couldn't leave it behind. Professor, I think I should take this with me, Lyra said, surprised by the authority in her own voice. I have a feeling it's not safe here. Professor Zixlana hesitated for a moment before nodding. Very well, Cadet Chen, but be careful. And remember, what we've discovered here could change everything. As Lyra hurried through the chaotic corridors, the artifact tucked safely in her bag, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life at the academy was about to become far more complicated and dangerous than she had ever imagined. Rounding a corner, Lyra nearly collided with Caxlin, the Syrian cadet who had taunted her earlier. His metallic scales gleamed in the pulsing red emergency lights, and his eyes narrowed as he recognized her. What are you doing out here, Earthling? He hissed. Didn't you hear the alarm? Before Lyra could respond, a deafening explosion rocked the building. The floor beneath them buckled, and Lyra found herself falling, tumbling into darkness. As she fell, she clutched the artifact tightly, and once again felt that surge of power within her. Time seemed to slow. Acting on instinct, Lyra reached out with her mind, sensing the energy around her. To her amazement, she felt the gravitational fields shift, cushioning her fall. She landed softly in a lower level of the academy, surrounded by debris but unharmed. Caxlin wasn't so lucky. The Syrian lay a few feet away, his leg pinned beneath a fallen beam. Despite their antagonistic relationship, Lyra didn't hesitate. She rushed to his side, assessing the situation. "Hold still," she commanded, surprising herself with her calm. "I'm going to get you out of there." Caxlin's eyes widened in disbelief. "How? You're not strong enough to lift that beam." Lyra took a deep breath, centering herself. She placed her hands on the beam, feeling the energy flowing through her body. With a grunt of effort, she pushed, not just with her muscles, but with her mind. To both their astonishment, the beam moved. It was as if it had suddenly become weightless. Caxlin scrambled free, staring at Lyra with a mixture of fear and awe. "How did you do that?" he whispered. Lyra shook her head, equally stunned. I'm not sure, but we need to get out of here. Can you walk?" As they made their way through the damaged lower levels of the academy, searching for a way out, Lyra's mind raced. The artifact in her bag seemed to pulse with energy, resonating with her newfound abilities. She realized that her life had irrevocably changed. She was no longer just an underdog human cadet struggling to fit in. She was something more, something that even she didn't fully understand yet. They emerged into the academy's central plaza to find chaos. Security drones buzzed overhead, while medical teams tended to injured cadets and faculty. In the distance, Lyra could see a sleek, unfamiliar ship docked at one of the academy's landing pads. Armed figures were escorting a hooded prisoner towards it. "Pirates," Caxlin hissed. "They must have come for something specific." Lyra's hand instinctively went to her bag, feeling the contours of the artifact within. She had a sinking feeling that she knew exactly what the pirates were after. As if sensing her thoughts, the artifact began to glow more intensely. Lyra felt a surge of determination. Whatever this object was, whatever powers it had awakened in her, she knew she had to protect it, not just for herself, but for all of humanity. "We need to stop them," Lyra said, her voice filled with a confidence she had never felt before. Caxlin looked at her as if she had gone mad. "Are you insane? We're just cadets." Lyra met his gaze steadily. "Maybe, but I'm also probably the reason they're here, and I'm not going to let them leave with whatever they came for." As she stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, Lyra Chen knew that her journey was only just beginning. The underdog human cadet was gone, replaced by something new, a protector, a discoverer, and perhaps the key to unlocking humanity's true potential in the vast, star-studded tapestry of the galaxy. Rising tensions. The days following the pirate attack were a whirlwind of activity at the Galactic Academy. Security protocols were tightened, classes were suspended, and an air of tension hung over the once peaceful campus. For Lyra Chen, however, the external chaos paled in comparison to the storm brewing within her. She sat in a sealed conference room, facing a panel of stern-faced academy officials. The artifact that had awakened her latent abilities lay on the table before them, inert and seemingly harmless. "Cadet Chen," began Admiral Vorkath, a towering Andrometan with skin like polished obsidian. "Your actions during the attack were unusual, to say the least. We'd like you to explain exactly what happened." Lyra took a deep breath, acutely aware of the weight of the moment. "I'm not entirely sure, sir. When I touched the artifact, it activated, and then during the attack, I felt different, stronger. I was able to do things I never could before." Professor Zixlana's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with excitement. "It's extraordinary. The artifact seems to have awakened dormant genetic potential in Cadet Chen." This could revolutionize our understanding of human physiology. It could also pose a significant security risk, countered Security Chief Lox, a vegan with metallic quills that quivered with agitation. If this power falls into the wrong hands, which is precisely why we must study it further, interrupted Dr. Ixora, her tentacles waving emphatically. Cadet Chen's abilities could be the key to advances in medicine, terraforming, even space travel. As the officials argued, Lyra felt a growing unease. She glanced at the artifact, remembering the visions it had shown her, glimpses of a time when humans wielded incredible powers, shaping the very fabric of space and time. "If I may," Lyra said, surprised by the steadiness in her voice, "I believe I was chosen for a reason. This artifact, these abilities, they're part of humanity's forgotten legacy. I want to understand them, to use them to help the Academy and the galaxy." Admiral Volkath's multifaceted eyes studied her intently. "A noble sentiment, Cadet, but also a dangerous one. Very well. You will continue your studies, but under close supervision. Professor Zixlana and Dr. Ixoro will oversee your training. And Cadet," he added, his tone softening slightly, "be careful. Not everyone will understand or accept what you're becoming." As Lyra left the conference room, her mind reeling from the meeting, she found Caxlin waiting for her. The Syrian cadet's usual swagger was gone, replaced by an uncertain demeanor. "Chen," he said, his metallic scales shifting nervously, I wanted to thank you for saving me during the attack, and to apologize for how I treated you before." Lyra blinked in surprise. "Thank you, Caxlin. That means a lot." As they walked together, an awkward silence stretching between them, Lyra sensed a shift in the atmosphere. Other cadets stopped to stare, whispering among themselves. She caught snatches of their conversations. "Human freak, dangerous, shouldn't be here." Caxlin noticed too. "Don't let them get to you," he said, his voice low. "They're just scared of what they don't understand." Lyra nodded, grateful for the unexpected support. But as they entered the main atrium, she realized the problem was bigger than just a few whispers. A group of cadets had gathered, led by Vexara, a Proximan known for her xenophobic views. As Lyra approached, Vexara stepped forward, her crystalline form glittering with hostility. "Well, if it isn't the Academy's new pet project," Vexara sneered. "Tell us, human, how does it feel to be a ticking time bomb?" Lyra felt a surge of anger, accompanied by a familiar tingling in her fingertips. She forced herself to remain calm, remembering Admiral Volkath's warning. "I'm not a threat, Vexara. I'm still the same person I was before." "Are you?" Vexara challenged. "We all saw what you did during the attack. How do we know you won't lose control and hurt someone?" The crowd murmured in agreement. Lyra felt her heart sink as she saw fear and suspicion in the eyes of cadets she had once called friends. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the tension. "That's enough, Vexara." Zora, the kind Arcturian cadet, pushed through the crowd to stand beside Lyra. "Lyra saved lives during the attack. She's not our enemy." The standoff might have escalated further if not for the timely arrival of Instructor Dron. The Martian veteran's scarred exoskeleton gleamed as he surveyed the scene with his compound eyes. "Is there a problem here, cadets?" he rasped, his tone leaving no room for argument. The crowd dispersed quickly, but Lyra could feel their lingering stares. As she headed to her next class, flanked by Zara and a still uncertain Caxlin, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life at the Academy had irrevocably changed. Over the next few weeks, Lyra threw herself into her studies with renewed determination. Under the guidance of Professor Zixlana and Dr. Ixora, she began to explore the extent of her newfound abilities. She learned to manipulate gravitational fields, to sense energy patterns, and even to tap into the fundamental forces that shaped the universe. But with each new discovery came new challenges. The more her powers grew, the more isolated she felt from her fellow cadets. Even Zara and Caxlin, supportive as they were, couldn't fully understand what she was going through. One evening, as Lyra was practicing energy manipulation in a specially designed training room, she sensed a familiar presence. She turned to find Caxlin watching her from the doorway, his expression unreadable. "Your control is improving," he said, his voice carefully neutral. Lyra nodded, letting the swirling energy dissipate. "Thanks, it's getting easier, but sometimes it still feels overwhelming." Caxlin stepped into the room, his metallic scales catching the light. "Chen, Lyra, I need to ask you something. These powers of yours, this artifact, do you really think it's safe?" Lyra felt a flicker of hurt at the question, but she understood his concern. "I believe it is," she said slowly. "Or at least I believe it can be used for good. But I understand why people are afraid." Caxlin was silent for a long moment. "I want to trust you, Lyra. But you have to understand, humans have always been the underdogs in the galaxy. Now suddenly, you have the potential to be one of the most powerful beings we've ever encountered. It's unsettling." Before Lyra could respond, an alarm blared through the academy. But this wasn't the familiar sound of a drill or a minor emergency. This was something different, something urgent and terrifying. "Attention all cadets and faculty," a voice boomed over the intercom. "This is not a drill. We are under attack. Unknown forces have breached our outer defenses. All combat-ready personnel report to your designated stations. This is not a drill." Lyra and Caxlin exchanged a look of shock and determination. Whatever their differences, whatever fears and doubts lingered between them, none of that mattered now. The academy, their home, was under threat. As they raced towards the central command center, Lyra felt the artifact, which she now wore on a chain around her neck, pulse with energy. She realized that the moment she had been training for, the true test of her newfound abilities and her place in the galaxy, had finally arrived. The underdog human cadet was about to face her greatest challenge yet, and the fate of the Galactic Academy, perhaps even the balance of power in the galaxy itself, hung in the balance. The crisis. The central command center of the Galactic Academy was a hive of frantic activity. Holographic displays flickered with real-time battle data, while officers of various species barked orders into communication devices. Lyra and Caxlin pushed their way through the chaos, finally spotting Admiral Volkath coordinating the defense efforts. "Cadets," the Admiral acknowledged them grimly, his obsidian skin reflecting the pulsing emergency lights. "We're facing a full-scale invasion. The attackers have somehow bypassed our main defenses." "Who are they?" Lyra asked, her heart racing. "Unknown," Volkath replied, "but their technology is unusual. It's like nothing we've encountered before." Suddenly, a nearby screen flared to life, revealing a face that made Lyra's blood run cold. It was unmistakably human, but twisted and enhanced with cybernetic implants. The figure's eyes glowed with an unnatural light as it spoke. "Greetings, Galactic Academy." The voice was a discordant blend of organic and synthetic tones. "I am Nexus, leader of the Awakened. We have come to claim what is rightfully ours, the key to humanity's true potential." Lyra felt the artifact around her neck grow warm. She knew with a sinking certainty that this was what they had come for. Admiral Volkath's voice was steel as he responded. "We do not negotiate with terrorists. Leave our space immediately or face the consequences." Nexus's augmented face twisted into a cruel smile. "Oh, but we're not terrorists, Admiral. We're visionaries, and we have a message for one of your cadets." His gaze seemed to pierce through the screen, focusing directly on Lyra. "Lyra Chen, we know what you've discovered. Join us, and together we can restore humanity to its rightful place in the galaxy." All eyes in the command center turned to Lyra. She felt the weight of their stares, the mix of fear, suspicion, and hope. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward. "I don't know who you are," Lyra said, her voice steadier than she felt, "but I won't help you attack my home. Whatever humanity's rightful place is, it's not through violence and conquest." Nexus's expression hardened. A pity. You could have been part of something greater. Instead, you'll watch as we take what we need by force. The transmission cut off, and alarms blared with renewed urgency. Multiple breaches detected, an officer shouted. They're inside the academy. Admiral Volkath turned to Lyra and Caxlin. Cadets, I'm assigning you to evacuation duty. Get the younger students to the emergency shelters. And Cadet Chen, he added, his multifaceted eyes boring into her, keep that artifact safe. Whatever it is, we can't let it fall into their hands. As Lyra and Caxlin raced through the corridors, guiding frightened Yamba cadets to safety, the sounds of battle echoed around them. Energy weapons discharged, and the very walls of the academy shook with explosive impacts. They had almost reached the shelters when a squad of cybernetically enhanced humans rounded the corner, weapons raised. Lyra reacted instinctively, reaching out with her mind to create a gravitational barrier. The attackers' energy blasts dissipated harmlessly against the invisible shield. Go, Lyra shouted to Caxlin. Get the kids to safety. I'll hold them off. Caxlin hesitated for a split second, then nodded. Be careful, Chen, he said, before ushering the young cadets away. Alone now, Lyra faced the awakened soldiers. She felt the power of the artifact surging through her, enhancing her natural abilities. With a gesture, she sent two of the attackers flying backward. Another rushed her with a vibro blade, but Lyra sidestepped with inhuman speed, using the attacker's momentum to throw him into his comrades. But the awakened were formidable opponents. Their cybernetic enhancements allowed them to adapt quickly, and soon Lyra found herself on the defensive. A lucky shot grazed her arm, and she stumbled, momentarily losing focus. In that instant of vulnerability, the leader of the squad pressed his advantage. He raised his weapon, a triumphant gleam in his augmented eyes. Nexus will be pleased, he sneered. Once we have the artifact, nothing will stand in our way. Time seemed to slow. Lyra felt the artifact pulse against her skin, and suddenly she understood. It wasn't just a source of power, it was a key, unlocking the dormant potential that had always existed within her, within all humans. With newfound clarity, Lyra reached deep within herself, tapping into a well of energy she had never known existed. The air around her crackled with power, and her eyes glowed with an inner light. You're wrong, Lyra said, her voice resonating with authority. The artifact isn't a weapon. It's a reminder of who we are, of what we can be when we embrace our true nature. She raised her hands, and the very fabric of space seemed to ripple around her. The awakened soldiers were lifted off their feet, their weapons torn from their grasp by an invisible force. Humanity's potential isn't about domination or conquest. Lyra continued, her voice carrying through the academy's halls. It's about growth, about using our gifts to protect and nurture, and I won't let you pervert that for your own ends. With a final surge of power, Lyra sent the awakened soldiers crashing into unconsciousness. As the last of them fell, she became aware of the silence that had fallen over the academy. The sounds of battle had ceased. Exhausted but determined, Lyra made her way back to the command center. She found Admiral Volkath and the other leaders staring at her with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The attack, it's over, Volkath said, his voice hushed. Somehow, you broadcasted your power throughout the academy. The invaders, they just collapsed. Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of what she had done. They underestimated us, all of us. They thought they could use fear and violence to unlock humanity's potential, but that's not who we are, not anymore. As the implications of what had transpired began to sink in, Lyra realized that this was only the beginning. The galaxy now knew the truth about humanity's latent abilities, and the balance of power had shifted irrevocably. The crisis had been averted, but Lyra Chen, once the underdog human cadet, now stood at the center of a storm that would reshape the future of the galaxy, and she knew, with a mixture of determination and apprehension, that her greatest challenges still lay ahead. Confrontation and revelation. In the days following the Awaken's attack, the Galactic Academy buzzed with a mixture of excitement, fear, and speculation. Lyra found herself at the center of it all, her every move watched and analyzed by students and faculty alike. Some viewed her as a hero, others as a potential threat, but all agreed that nothing would ever be the same. As Lyra walked through the Academy's halls, she overheard snippets of conversation. "Did you see what she did? It was like something out of ancient legends. But how do we know she won't turn on us? That kind of power. I heard the Galactic Council is coming to investigate. This changes everything." Lyra tried to ignore the whispers, focusing instead on understanding and controlling her newfound abilities. Under the guidance of Professor Zixlana and Dr. Ixora, she made rapid progress, but questions still lingered. One evening, as Lyra was meditating in the Academy's arboretum, she sensed a familiar presence. She opened her eyes to find Caxlin approaching, his metallic scales gleaming in the artificial twilight. "Chen," he said, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant, "we need to talk." Lyra nodded, gesturing for him to sit beside her. "What's on your mind, Caxlin?" The Syrian cadet was silent for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "I've been thinking about what you said during the attack, about humanity's potential. I think I understand now, but there's something you need to know." Caxlin's eyes met hers, filled with a mixture of guilt and resolve. "I've been working with a group of cadets. We were worried about the power you were developing. We thought it might be necessary to stop you if things got out of hand." Lyra felt a pang of hurt, but she pushed it aside. "And now I see that we were wrong," Caxlin said. "You could have used your power to dominate, to take control. But you didn't. You protected us all." He paused, then added softly, "I'm sorry we doubted you." Before Lyra could respond, an alarm blared through the Academy. But this wasn't the frantic sound of an attack. It was a summons. "All senior cadets report to the Grand Hall immediately," the announcement echoed. "Cadet Lyra Chen, your presence is specifically requested." Exchanging a worried glance, Lyra and Caxlin hurried to the Grand Hall. They found it packed with cadets, faculty, and, to their surprise, members of the Galactic Council itself. Admiral Vorkath stood at the center, his obsidian form radiating authority. Beside him stood a figure Lyra recognized from historical records, High Counselor Zhen, one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "Cadet Chen," Vorkath's voice carried across the hushed hall, "step forward." As Lyra approached, she felt the weight of countless eyes upon her. High Counselor Zhen studied her with ancient, knowing eyes. "Lyra Chen," Zhen's voice was like the whisper of stars, "you stand at a crossroads. The power you have awakened could reshape the galaxy. We have come to understand its origins and the choice that now lies before you." With a gesture, Zhen activated a holographic display. It showed scenes from Earth's distant past, humans wielding incredible abilities, shaping planets, traveling between stars with ease. "Long ago," Zhen explained, "humanity was among the most advanced species in the galaxy. But your power came at a cost. Wars were fought, worlds were destroyed. In the end, your ancestors made a choice. They locked away their abilities, hiding the key in artifacts like the one you now possess." Lyra's mind reeled with the implications. But why? Why hide such potential? Zhen's eyes softened, because they understood that true greatness comes not from power, but from how that power is used. They chose to earn their place in the galaxy, to grow and learn alongside other species. "And now," Admiral Vorkath continued, "you must make a similar choice. The artifact you possess can fully unlock humanity's latent abilities, but it can also seal them away once more. The decision is yours, Cadet Chen, and it will determine the future of your species and the galaxy itself." Lyra felt the weight of history, of countless lives and possibilities, resting on her shoulders. She closed her eyes, reaching out with her senses, feeling the connections that bound all living things. When she opened her eyes, they shone with resolve. Our ancestors were right, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. Power without wisdom, without compassion, is meaningless. We've earned our place in the galaxy not through dominance, but through collaboration and understanding. She reached for the artifact around her neck. I choose to keep our abilities as they are, present, but not overwhelming. We'll continue to grow, to learn, to work alongside our galactic neighbors. And perhaps in time, we'll fully unlock our potential. But we'll do it together, as part of the galactic community. As Lyra spoke, the artifact glowed brightly, then faded. She could feel the change settling over her, over all humans present. Their latent abilities remained, but tempered, balanced. High Counselor Zhen nodded, a smile playing at the edges of their ancient features. A wise choice, Lyra Chen. One that will shape the future of the galaxy for generations to come. A new era. In the months that followed Lyra's decision, the Galactic Academy, and indeed the entire galactic community, underwent a profound transformation. Humans, once seen as newcomers and underdogs, were now recognized as beings of immense potential and wisdom. The Academy's curriculum was revamped to include courses on human abilities, ethics, and the responsible use of power. Lyra, no longer an outcast, found herself in the role of teacher and mentor, helping both humans and aliens understand and develop their latent talents. Caxlin, true to his word, became one of Lyra's staunchest allies. Together, they worked to bridge the gap between species, fostering understanding and cooperation. One bright morning, a year after the fateful attack, Lyra stood before a new class of cadets, a diverse group of humans and aliens, all eager to learn. "Welcome to Advanced Xenobiology and Psychic Integration," Lyra began, her voice confident and warm. "In this class, we'll explore the connections between all living beings, and how understanding these connections can help us grow, not just as individuals, but as a galactic community." As she spoke, Lyra felt a surge of pride and purpose. She had come so far from the struggling, insecure cadet she had once been, but she knew her journey, and humanity's journey, was far from over. After class, Lyra made her way to Admiral Vorkas's office. The Admiral greeted her with a nod of respect. "Cadet, no, Instructor Chen," he corrected himself. "Your progress reports are impressive. The integration of human abilities into our curriculum has been smoother than we could have hoped." Lyra smiled. "Thank you, Admiral, but I sense there's more you want to discuss." Vorkas's multifaceted eyes gleamed, perceptive as always. "Yes, we've received a communication from the Galactic Council. They're proposing a new initiative, an interspecies task force to explore the frontiers of psychic and technological integration. They want you to lead it." Lyra's heart raced with excitement and a touch of apprehension. "Me? But I'm still so new to all of this." "Perhaps," Vorkas replied, "but you've shown wisdom beyond your years. Your decision to balance human abilities with responsibility has opened up new possibilities for cooperation and growth throughout the galaxy." As Lyra left the Admiral's office, her mind swirling with the possibilities that lay ahead, she ran into Zara and Caxlin. "We heard the news," Zara said, her 4 eyes blinking excitedly. "A galactic task force. That's incredible." Caxlin grinned, his metallic scales shimmering. "Just think, a year ago, you were the worst in our class. Now you're leading us into a new era." Lyra laughed, feeling a warmth in her chest as she looked at her friends. "I couldn't have done it without you, without all of us working together." As they walked together through the Academy's halls, Lyra reflected on her journey. From struggling cadet to reluctant hero, and now to a leader helping to shape the future of the galaxy. She thought of all the challenges that lay ahead, the mysteries to uncover, the bridges to build between species, the delicate balance to maintain between power and responsibility. But as she looked at her friends, at the diverse group of beings that now called the Academy home, Lyra felt ready to face whatever the future might hold. The age of the underdog was over. A new era of cooperation, growth, and shared potential had begun. And Lyra Chen, once the worst in her class, now stood at the forefront of this bright new future, not as a lone hero, but as part of something greater. Together, they would explore the stars, unlock new potentials, and write the next chapter in the grand story of the galaxy. As the three friends stepped out onto the Academy's observation deck, the vast expanse of stars stretched out before them, a glittering promise of adventures yet to come. Lyra smiled, feeling the familiar tingle of the power within her, balanced now with wisdom and purpose. "So," she said, turning to her friends with a grin, "who's ready for our next big adventure?" Their laughter echoed through the hall, a joyful sound heralding the dawn of a new age, an age of unity, discovery, and limitless potential. The end.